Doug Green, and I'm the publisher of Telecom Reseller, and this is a special podcast for TR Publications and the Cloud Communications Alliance. And I'm here today with Hayden Faltine, who's the CEO of BroadSource. Hayden, thank you for joining me today.
Hi, Doug. Thanks for having us.
And Michael Gliana, who is the Chief Technology Officer for BroadSource. Michael, thank you for joining me.
Thank you for having us.
So really excited about doing this. We're going to be talking about some interesting issues apart from the pandemic. Maybe we'll be talking about the pandemic as well. But we're going to be talking about adaptive cloud UC, about utilization, and some other issues I think that are really important to the CCA memberships and also the readership of TR. But Hayden, first of all, what is BroadSource?
Yeah, thanks, Doug. So BroadSource is a global software development and services company specializing in cloud collaboration platforms for our service provider customer base. We've been actively developing product and implementing platforms for the world's largest and most sophisticated service providers who offer cloud collaboration platforms to their customer base. So our team is very busy today, as you can imagine, helping service providers create the future of work and the remote office environment. And our team's very busy building these platforms and creating collaboration for telcos every single day. But equally, we're looking at how do we solve problems in product and code and software. And that's Michael's team, who have had a history in being able to solve those problems. And today we want to talk to you about an approach, a platform, and a technology we've developed to try and help service providers kind of get the best out of those platforms that they're trying to bring to their enterprise and small business customer base.
So is that platform called Adaptive Cloud UC?
Yeah, correct. Yeah, so we've built a technology and an architecture and a platform that we call Adaptive Unified Communications. An adaptive unified communications platform is the type of collaboration platform that adapts or but changes behavior. Think about features and settings and functionality in real time without the user actually needing to explicitly interact with that platform. We'll spend some time today talking about why we think there's a need to increase the level of daily participation and consumption of features that are running on the network that are there and available for the customer base. And an adaptive cloud is one that changes its behavior without anyone really needing to explicitly interact with it. So just go about your day, and the cloud should be smart enough to react and respond. The net effect is the features are being consumed. And when the features are consumed, the networks are valued. When the networks are valued, the customer stays, and a better outcome for both the customer base and the service provider offering that service.
So, Michael, did you guys perceive that as a problem or an issue that people weren't using features that were being sold?
Yeah, absolutely. Both Hayden and I have a long history with the product, going back to 20 years, maybe combined with Call Manager. And, one of most difficult aspect of the product in my previous role was to get people to understand those advanced features that we were selling them and get them to use the features. There were many reasons why users couldn't use those features. So what we set ourselves as the number one task when we built BroadSource to create those products is to address that shortcoming in the ecosystem and make those advanced features consumable easily by the end user. So they are valued, they are used without the user having to do a lot. And that was one of the major problems that I found trying to get users to use the advanced features is the education, is having the right tools. It's, the users reminding themselves while they're busy with everything else, that feature that could really make my life easier, and what was it again? And so what we're trying to do is remove all that guesswork and the reminders and make those features work for the end users automatically without the users having to remind themselves about them, without having the users to go actively and on a portal and enable those features without having to go and educate all the users about all the advances and the differences between the sometimes very similar features.
We've probably all been at an occasion at work or even socially where we wanted to use a piece of technology and everyone's fumbling about, and maybe there's some incumbent technology available in the room or conference room, maybe on the desk and so on, and quote unquote someone says, gee, no one knows how to do that, or Lou knows how to do that, but he's not here today, or something like that. So, or maybe even there are features, as you just mentioned, that everyone's not even aware of. So how are you overcoming those problems with adaptive cloud UC?
Yeah, I think from our perspective, there's a bit of a aligning of planets that's happened, Doug, and that is that the platforms that the major service providers and the underlying vendors like Cisco and Metaswitch and Ribbon and 8x8 and RingCentral, they're making their platforms programmable. That is, you can get access to them and you can interact with them. And so what we've seen over the last 15 years is people building portals and building front-end user interfaces for people to log in with the username and password and to interact with their feature set. Fantastic features, as Michael described. And so the platforms have become available. The second thing that's happened is that everybody has ended up with a mobile phone in their hand, in their pocket, within a meter of them, 24 hours a day. Those devices have become internet connected and their batteries last more than 6 hours. They actually last more than a day. And so there's an alignment of the computing capacity on a mobile phone with that of the openness and programmability of cloud collaboration platforms. And so we went to task looking at how do we use the mobile phone as the sensory device that is physically connected to the human being, that is the subscriber, and all of its capability around sensory capacity to automatically drive the behavior of the cloud. And so that as you go about your day, just because your mobile phone is with you, running in background on your mobile phone is all the logic required to automatically drive the network's behavior so that you create a smart network behavior on using a smartphone as the input device, just because the phone is on you. And that opens up a world of opportunity for creating really simple user experiences without anyone needing to learn or actively participate, but to consume. And it pushes an architecture in the network that says this network becomes adaptive and it's responding to contextual awareness. And for us, it's a journey of ever-evolving evolution of capability based on what the smartphone can do, and how do we map that to a smart network? And that's been our approach. That's the technology, and that's the concept behind adaptive unified communications.
Yeah. Other factors where, people started working from home, and then that means that those features need to understand the location of the user, for example, to be more meaningful. So you might need your ringing devices to ring in a different pattern when you're in the office or at home, or maybe only ring one device, especially with users who started using multiple devices. There's the mobile phone, there's your desk phone, there is your conferencing system, and they all connected which one you are using. So all of a sudden there was a great need for those features to be aware of the user's context, like location, time of the day, and things like that, which, because they were cloud services and they were great, they were cloud services available, but they were disconnected from the user. And what we tried to do is put back that awareness of the user's whereabouts and location and everything there at the time of the day, and automatically consume those services without the user having to do that manually. And that's why we call it's the adaptive cloud, because it adapts to the user's context without the user having to manually change that context in the cloud.
So how does this actually help the end users? And by end users, I guess in this case, I'll make it almost two parts. The actual employees or associates that you're talking about within a firm or organization, and maybe also the long-suffering IT managers maybe a reader of ours that has to preside over the technology network?
Good question, Doug. So we feel like people's lives are getting even more and more complicated. Particularly now as people are now working from home, they're working remotely, they've got a number of different places they need to operate in as an individual. We think that there's a blurring of the lines between your personal time and your business time. And we think we need to help people simplify their lives, not make it more complicated by giving them new interfaces to interact with to manage their business phone services. We see that there's a blurring of services on a mobile phone with the prevalence of fixed to mobile convergence for certain customers in certain geographies. And so all of a sudden on a physical mobile device, we've got business numbers and personal numbers and soft clients and things, and it's all too hard. So the way this benefits an end user is simplicity, and it's about allowing them just to go about their day, about just turning up at the office and having a cloud adapt its behavior because it knows you're at the office, and it'll make the right telephone ring or the right device become active at the right time. When they get home, it's about putting them into personal mode maybe, but it's about giving them an interface that allows them to take control of that. So if, for example, Doug, you need to make a phone call back to the office at 8 o'clock at night, it'd probably be great if the network said, well, Doug's at home. We know he's at home and we know it's 8 o'clock at night, so he probably wants to use his mobile phone for personal reasons. But wouldn't it be great if he needed to make a phone call back to the office and therefore have a business persona about that phone call? Wouldn't it be great if he just gave his phone a little shake? That gesture, that activity actually was a signal. That signal went to an adaptive cloud, which changed its behavior to allow a business phone call to be made. And all of a sudden, Doug is in business mode just for the duration of that phone call. And so that's not about portals and about logging into systems to do that stuff, but it's about Doug having a really simple experience that makes his life easier, allows him to balance his work life, and allows him to get about his day and have the network follow him, not the other way around.
So it sounds like one of the big takeaways here is it's really simple. And is it designed for people that, so to speak, are not technological? I hear that comment a lot. You have channel companies say, gee, I've got a lot of customers and the employees there don't know how to use technology.
Yeah, this is about allowing end users not to need to know about the technology. This is about them not needing to read a manual. This is about, people know how to use a smartphone without having to read any manuals. Why is it we need to read a manual when it comes to cloud collaboration? We need to have that same paradigm shift in cloud collaboration. It needs to be intuitive. It needs to be so simple that it's a part of your day. And so we've got customers, for example, in Europe where they are customers who have both a business number and a personal number on their mobile phone. And for them, it's just as simple as turning up at the warehouse as a warehouse person, and their mobile phone turns into a business identity for the period that they're in the warehouse. Nothing for them to need to know, and there's no technology for them to learn. But by them just leaving the warehouse and heading home for the day, that device has become a personal device. And that's just the way that it works. And that's the new paradigm. That's the new way in which a service provider reacts and behaves without asking anything of the subscriber to participate actively.
So on the other side of the desk, how does this technology assist your customers, the service providers?
Definitely a great deal. I've been in projects where the service providers tried to deploy many interfaces and portals to encourage and spend millions on those portals to encourage their users to consume those services so they can sell them the premium licenses, because some of these advanced features were in the premium license packs. And when the users didn't use them, at the end of the contract, there was always a negotiation of, give me a lower price, because they couldn't see the value in the premium pack, or go to the lower price pack because of the lack of utilization. What this allowed the service provider is really capitalize on the investment they did in buying those licenses and selling those licenses to their end customer without having to invest heavily in systems and tooling to make those customers use them. In my experience, only about, every time the service provider did a study about how many users use their advanced services in the premium pack, there was about 2 to 3%, and how many people use these portals and other tools to interact with those services was around even less in terms of percentage. So it's a huge deal to the service provider because it impacts their revenue big time in terms of what they can sell and the opportunity of selling to their end user.
So what trends are you guys observing in the cloud UC space generally?
So for us as a integration and software development team, we get asked a lot about how do we help accelerate the transformation of the customer base to cloud. So a lot of the work we do in our software is to bring platforms that not only allow service providers to manage their estate, they manage their subscriber base and manicure that subscriber base better, but also how do we use that same platform to transition customers to that cloud service a lot faster to get to revenue quicker. So that's the transformation of premise to cloud and cloud platform consolidation. So that's the trend we're seeing there that's keeping us very busy. The next one is how do you keep them there? How do you keep them on the cloud? And how do you make this cloud more competitive than somebody else's cloud? And that's where the Adaptive UC platform from us is being used to help service providers differentiate their offering through a smarter perceived environment for your subscribers to participate in on a day-by-day basis. So they're probably the two big trends from our perspective at a sort of a macro level.
And what's next for BroadSource?
We're still busy every day building new cloud collaboration platforms. We were looking at the evolution of telephony as a utility for most businesses into sort of multi-channel collaboration. So for us, there's a need to think about other communications channels, which are becoming really important to be managed, not just telephony, but formal meeting environments and informal communication channels with other platforms that need to now be manicured and controlled in the way in which they're presented to an end user. So we're looking at how do we take other channels of communication in and also manage those in a lot simpler way to try and hold simplification in the conversation as best we can.
And definitely we're seeing everywhere in the world where it is a big transition to the cloud from on-premise to the cloud, and we are doing a lot of work in helping that migration. Our aim is not just migrate, the technology to the cloud, but making those clouds smart. We all about the smart clouds by using, the smart mobile devices and the technology that we have about the user contextual awareness and make the clouds react to that. And that could be telephony, could be collaboration, could be could be call center, could be many other, in many other aspects of the collaboration and unified communication channels, not just telephony.
It seems like that's in line with expectations of just regular consumers. That to your point earlier about not having to go look at a manual or see a video or go to training, more and more of us seem to be just saying, when I use a piece of technology, I don't really want to know how it works. I just want to know that it works.
You want to consume water, you really don't go and read a manual to
right.
How to open the tap, and you don't do that for any of the other utilities. Why we think that the end user should do that for telephony and collaboration. We think it should be the same.
So do you guys think you're in the toaster business now? Easy as toast? Just put the bread in?
Well, I think what we're really lucky to benefit from is we get to inherit an innovation curve that gets simpler and simpler, and that is that we're actually looking at the way in which the mobile computing devices from the leading vendors like Apple and Samsung and the team at Google, they're always innovating from a smartphone perspective to make it as easy as toast. But we get to capitalize on that innovation and drive it back into the cloud and say, right, how do we take that device's new capability and how do we map that to benefit our service provider customer base and drive their cloud? So there's a lot about simplifying devices, but it's also about simplifying cloud experiences and making it as easy as toast. And for us, we combine those two things. That's a really important part of all the patent work we've done around driving the capacity and capability of a smartphone and all of its sensory capabilities to make life easy and to map that knowledge to, and the art of this, the magic that I think that Michael and his team have created is how do we allow that to benefit the service provider community, not necessarily the smartphone vendor community. And so that's a really interesting dynamic for us and a real topic for the way in which we've crafted our intellectual property and to map those two worlds together. And that's what's kind of next for us, is to be on that innovation curve of who knows what will come next from those handset manufacturers. But we really reckon that we can map all of that great capability, whatever it might be, blood glucose levels on your mobile phone, who knows, map that to a service provider piece of technology that accentuates the value of the service provider network, makes it look and feel and act smarter than what it is today. And that's what the innovation curve is for us, and that's kind of what's next. We're really excited just to think about that concept of mapping to the cloud and making the cloud a better experience for all.
Yeah, and even for safety and health issues and well-being as well. Imagine if you're in the car and there are many accidents because people use their mobile phone in the car while on the highway. You know, your cloud automatically divert your calls to the voicemail or to your assistant if you are if you are a business user or back to the office or something like that, because it knows that you are in the car, it knows that you are on the highway, and there's many examples. You know, there's been a traditional problem with VoIP calls lacking the location and compared to PSTN. So when you make an emergency call, you know, to pinpoint the location of the person who made it, sometimes it's a problem during emergency, you know, but you know, the mobile phone knows that location, so it can augment the metadata in the cloud with that. There's a lot of example where this is not just convenience, but actually required and for health and safety reasons. You know, a wearable that can detect the heart rate of a patient and automatically uses the cloud to make an emergency call, and so on and so forth. There's lots of examples of it. And we try to capitalize on all of that and make it a value that the cloud can use automatically.
It sounds like there's lots of interesting vertical applications for the technologies you're developing.
Yeah, absolutely.
We've created probably so far about 70 different what we call recipes, which are kind of pieces of logic which run on the mobile phone in background and just go about listening to the phone's orientation or its location or the time of day or the call status, whatever the phone physically can deliver to us. We've mapped that in a range of different sort of market vertical recipes which can help service providers target their customer base with differentiated services. And so anywhere from road safety to healthcare to productivity and connectedness to work-life balance, they are all recipes that our platform is able to deliver and distribute out to a customer base and have them consume those things, again, without really actively participating, but bringing those features and services to life. And we don't think we've thought of the best ones yet. We think that the really great experiences are going to come from our customer base, and we're hearing some great ideas that we can wrap our heads around and think, wow, we didn't even think of that as a user experience, that if we just combined these two things together would be an unbelievable piece of value for the end user, but boy, would it make the service provider's network just look so fantastic in terms of a differentiated service offering. And so, that's the journey ahead of us. And that's what we're so excited about, that the platform is being consumed today by a number of our customers who are just starting this journey, And unfortunately, we think to a large degree COVID is going to accelerate that because of so many more people relying on cloud collaboration services to get on with being productive and staying connected, but while managing the complexity of these services in a well-balanced personal business life environment, which is the remote worker working from home virtual office way of the future.
Well, gentlemen, I want to thank you for joining me today. This has been a very interesting podcast. It's been delightful talking about utilization again and some problem solving. I think that the channels really need to hear about, because I think many people are still selling products and services and the features aren't quite getting used by the customers. So this is a very important topic. Hayden, where can we learn more about BroadSource and also Adaptive Cloud UC?
I guess seeing is believing, Doug. So we really encourage our listeners and customers to reach out either via our website, make contact with us, because we'd love to physically show you how this operates. We've got some videos and some real live demonstrations. We'd be more than happy to share an online meeting with you to show exactly how these experiences can be driven, and have a conversation about what parts of their networks we could work together to accentuate and elevate. And if you've got a part of your network which you think you can capitalize on with this type of technology to increase its consumption and utilization, and then we can show you that and demonstrate it live in front of your eyes, and hopefully that leads to an opportunity for us to talk about how to improve the networks.
Well, Hayden, thank you very much indeed. It's been very interesting. Hayden and Michael, thank you for joining me today. I know we're going to be talking more to you guys about this area of technology and other issues on UC. But for now, thanks very much.
Thanks, Doc.
Thanks.